This week on the WriterCon podcast.
It would be to do this because you have a passion for it, because you can't possibly imagine your life being anything else. This has to be driving you to get these words out. These stories have to feed your soul.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Your hosts are William Bernhardt, best-selling novelist and author of the Red Sneaker books on writing, and Rene Gutteridge, best-selling author of over 30 novels and screenplays.
Hey there, writers. Well, we're all back home again. The cruise is over, but the retreat will be happening in a couple of months, actually. And of course, the big conference, WriterCon, will come after that on Labor Day weekend. It is also graduation season. I'll be attending 3 ceremonies this year, including one for my son, Ralph, who, of course, is, among other things, the official WriterCon photographer, and one for my wife, who co-hosted last week. Well, now she's got a master's degree in addition to 7 published books. Rene, you've got a graduate in the family too, don't you?
I sure do. Very excited. My firstborn graduated, and we're thrilled for him. And it's a good
nice feeling, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
Good feeling. It really is.
And speaking of special events, Jesse, I think I read that you and Michelle just celebrated an anniversary. Am I right?
That is correct. We timed it so our sort of dating anniversary and our wedding anniversary are pretty much the same day. They're technically one day apart, which is a confusion to everyone in our family. But yes, so Michelle and I have technically been together for 23 years. Married for 12.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we met at the tail end of high school. It's very sweet.
Wait,
Wonderful
if
story.
it's your 11th anniversary?
It's our 12. It's our.
So you dated for like 12 years?
Yes. Well, because we started dating at the end of high school and then dated through college, and it seemed weird to get married during college. And then she spent 2 years in France. I've waited a year, then went to grad school in Boston, and then living in Boston was what finally convinced us to try living together. And then from that point, a couple years later, we got married.
Okay.
That is a dating saga.
It is a dating saga.
Yeah, it was sounding like you got worse commitment issues than most of my characters. But
Well, honestly, it was just it was Michelle's desire about whether she wanted to be the center of attention for a day or not, which is really the holdup. And I was like, whenever you're ready. So, and
that's cool.
Yep.
All right. Our interview today is with Amy Brewer, who is a senior literary agent at the Metamorphosis Literary Agency, which is a premier outfit, currently seeking well-crafted fiction and nonfiction. She's also the co-author of a book, Texting Prince Charming, and she's a social media manager and a yoga instructor. I mean, she does it all. She'll be at WriterCon this year, and she joined us on the WriterCon cruise where she spent, and I'm not exaggerating, hours. She spoke to every single member of our group. So put that into perspective, just to toot the WriterCon horn a little bit. At most conferences, your pitch sessions are 1, maybe 2 minutes if you're lucky. At WriterCon, they're 10 minutes, unless you do Pitch Fest, in which there's more. But on the cruise, she spoke to people for hours, not just taking pitches, but giving insightful career advice and guidance. Anyway, while we were on the cruise, she was also kind enough to sit for an interview, and we're going to share that with you now. So be prepared for the change in hosts and locations, and I'm sure it'll sound differently because when we were on the cruise, we were all crowded in a very small library. But Jesse made it work, right?
I did.
All right. We'll talk to Amy after the news segment and a brief word from our friends at Draft to Digital.
Hi, this is Kevin Tomlinson with Draft to Digital. Ebooks are amazing, but there's just something about having your book in print. That's why we built D2D Print. We take care of you with free layout templates and formatting, and we can convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound print cover automatically. Come check out D2D Print and all the cool tools we've built for you. Find out more at drafttodigital.com.
All right, our first news story. We should probably just start a continuing segment we call the Patterson Report, because this is the third consecutive time he's featured in the news segment. 2 episodes ago, he was upset because his Maximum Ride series was banned by a Florida school district. Last time he was upset because his most recent book didn't hit the bestseller list, even though the raw sales data indicated that it actually sold better than most of the books that were on the list. And now he is here because he has achieved an unprecedented milestone. He is now officially the first author to sell more than 100 million copies in print formats, according to Circana BookScan. His nearest competitor, with a puny 83 million copies in print, is, who wants to guess? Rene, what do you think? We'll do Final Jeopardy.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't think it's Stephen King.
It is not. He's that would have been my guess, too. He's not even in the top 7. I don't know why, but he's not. Jesse, what do you think?
I was going to say the Bible.
Well, but we're talking authors here. And the Bible has
God.
God, yeah,
Yes.
God. Let's see. Honestly, yeah, who? I have no... What is... I don't know.
The answer is Dr. Seuss, who has the puny 83 million copies. Since you asked, I thought you would say J.K. Rowling, who is in fact number 3.
Yeah. But then I thought volume of books.
Yeah.
Right.
James Patterson, he has...
Well, that's a good point. Hundreds probably, and Rowling has essentially 7, although I know she's done some other smaller books. Jeff Kinney, Wimpy Kid is number 4, Nora Roberts 5, Mary Pope Osborne, The Magic Tree House is 6, and John Grisham comes in at 7 with 42 million books. Wow. Which, I'd probably be happy with, but compared to 100 million, it starts to sound like, he's an underachiever. I remember last time you mentioned, Jesse, that you did not feel sympathy for James Patterson. What about now that he is apparently the best-selling author ever?
Now I feel even less sympathy. Like, just stop complaining. Like, you've sold the most books ever. What else do you want? You don't even have to write your books. You have your team of ghostwriters to write them for you. Like, you don't have to do anything. Just like swim in your money and be happy.
Like Uncle Scrooge?
Yeah.
I will give him credit for, I think he loves stories, and he is very good at, think how many series he's run. He started with Alex Cross, then the Women's Murder Club, Michael Bennett. We talked about Maxim Ride Zoo, which was some kind of television series. I mean, even if he's not writing every word himself, he seems to be a font of story ideas. All right, news story number 2. This has to do with Barnes & Noble. This is where I have to eat crow, because I know 5 or more years ago, I was predicting Barnes & Noble would not be around much longer, but it is. And according to their CEO, they've made great strides in terms of returns. Just in case somebody doesn't know, let me briefly explain that in the book world, when we talk about returns, we're talking about a bookstore's ability to return, to send back books they don't sell and get credit for it. Although in some cases, for a while, they just had to rip off the covers of paperbacks and send back the cover. Now, in some cases, they don't even have to do that. They can just destroy the book and tell the distributor they didn't sell it. Anyway, the point of this is that the current CEO, James Daunt, has revealed that the chain now has returns down to 7% from a previous 30% when he took over. I mean, that's a huge difference, and he's clearly hoping to drop it even further. He said he'd like to get it down to 3%. Rene, you've been in this business a long time. Do you think 3% returns is even possible?
I mean, I don't. We'll say yes, because we're cheering this on. We're going to be positive. Can I ask a question, though? I might have forgotten. We talked about this. What does he do? What's the secret sauce here that he claims?
Well, one thing that he did mention in the interview was that once upon a time, Barnes& Noble did a lot of pay for play placements. You know, the publisher would give them typically $10,000 or $15,000, and then you'd get shelved on an end cap or at the front where it said bestsellers, which had nothing to do with sales. It just had to do with being a bought spot. But of course, the fact that your publisher paid for a spot does not necessarily mean the book's going to sell. And I think that was a reason a lot were getting returned, but Daunt has apparently eliminated that and allowed local stores to be more in control of what books they show. They can feature local authors if they want to, or curate the collection based upon what's selling in their town. And
that fascinating concept, isn't it?
Yeah, imagine that, even in a chain store. But you raised the issue of cheering. Jesse, what do you think? Should we be cheering for this huge chain? Am I the only one who remembers the movie You've Got Mail?
No, I remember. Like Barnes & Noble used to be the enemy,
right?
But here's the thing: the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation here, right? We want Barnes & Noble to succeed so that bookstores, real bookstores, can succeed against Amazon. You know, the evil empire. I don't see them becoming Barnes & Noble anytime soon. So yeah, I'm happy for Barnes & Noble. Here's the thing: like Barnes & Nobles are nice. You know, Tulsa at least has multiple, independent nonprofit bookstores that I normally do shop
Magic
at.
City and
Magic City, Fulton Street, Witty Books.
Witty, I was there last week. Yep,
they're all great, but sometimes, like those stores are a lot smaller and only have a certain selection of books, and so a Barnes & Noble is handy. Also, Barnes & Noble really, I feel like, leaned into like nerd stuff. Like there's that whole corner, at least in our store here, of just like board games and Funko Pops and cool figurines. And I'm like, all right, I'll go look at those things. So good job, Barnes & Noble.
I want to add into this. I think if we could reverse this direction, right? Like it went up Amazon, now it's coming back and people are seeing the value of Barnes & Noble. I think one thing that small bookstores can tap into, which we have heard in the news consistently for months now, is that our world is lonely, right? Like they're talking about loneliness as the new epidemic. A local bookstore, if we can get these up and running, can create community in a way that Barnes & Noble won't ever really be able to do. It's too big. So we'll be cheering these smaller stores on to see if they can create that. Because that was what was so fun about those small mom and pop bookstores is you knew the people in the community. So hopefully that will work.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, final news story. Speaking of geek stuff, I shouldn't have said that, but too late. Jesse, Warner Brothers has announced that the Harry Potter series of books, which of course they have rights to because they did the movie series, it's now going to be adapted into a decade-long television series. So the idea is that each season will be based on one of the 7 Harry Potter books, and it will stream on what I think is currently called HBO Max, but it's about to become Max. J.K. Rowling and her agent are both going to be executive producers, and she issued a press release in which she said, quote, "Max's commitment to preserving the integrity of the books is important to me, and I'm looking forward to being part of this new adaptation, which will allow for a degree of depth and detail only afforded by a long-form television series." Okay, Jesse, you're our resident science fiction and fantasy expert. Do you think this is going to be a success?
Do I think it's going to be a success? Probably. Is it a good idea? Yes, it always should have been a prestige TV show. Almost all book adaptations should be, because making a 90-minute to 2-hour movie off a book is always going to leave out important character details.
Sure. But is it too soon? I mean, it seems like just yesterday I was marathoning those movies with Ralph when he was a single-digit age, and as I just mentioned, he's about to graduate from college. So maybe it's not as reasoned as I think.
Well, yeah, I feel like the first Harry Potter movie came out the same year Fellowship of the Ring did, like 2001. Really? And then they finished up in the early 2010s. I mean, yeah, it's a little early for it, honestly. I mean, like the original actors are still like mostly alive.
Cameos.
There should be some great cameos, hopefully.
Can Daniel Radcliffe play Harry's dad this time around?
Ooh, that would be. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I feel like, and maybe they have the data on this. If there's been like a whole generation of people continuously reading the books, there will be a new generation of people who will view the TV show as their thing versus the movies. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm interested to see what this is like, considering the issues J.K. Rowling has had with her own fan base over the last couple of years, and how actors in this show, actors who are signed on to the show, respond to that, and again, how much control she has over it. Because as we've learned with the most recent Harry Potter related movies, she's a great book writer. She's not necessarily a great script writer. So hopefully they, once the strike is over, get some good writers for the show.
Well, the other question, of course, is the controversy that has arisen in the past year or so regarding J.K. Rowling and her statements about trans individuals and whatnot. Is I can see that, Max is treading softly around this issue, but these are still adaptations of her work. Is that going to be a problem for this series?
I think it's going to be a problem for some people, for sure, because considering how they announced her involvement in it, like, the battle Harry Potter fans who have problems with J.K. Rowling's views on trans issues is like they don't want to give her any more money than she already has. And watching the show, like with that video game that came out a couple months ago, people were debating whether they should play it. And with this show, like, she's directly involved with it, so there's definitely going to be people who are not going to watch it, and it depends on how loud they are. And they'll definitely listen. Even within my own friend group, there is a break between like whether they care, like whether their support of trans people and their love of Harry Potter, like where they draw said line. And so it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I would love for it to be good. Will I watch it? I'm not sure.
Rene, you were being suspiciously quiet. Was Harry Potter a big hit at your house?
It was. We loved it, and I remember loving it, I think, even more than my kids. And we loved it. It was great.
And will you watch the new series? What?
I was gonna say, just a reminder, like, people tried to cancel her books, the Harry Potter books, when they first came out too. So
because there was sorcery and
it was the devil's work. So.
Yeah. All right. That's enough news. Jesse, cue up the music. Let's talk to Amy Brewer. Amy, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
All right. Traditional first question. If you could give writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be to do this because you have a passion for it. Because you can't possibly imagine your life being anything else. This has to be driving you to get these words out. These stories have to feed your soul. That is my best advice. Write for that. Write for the passion, for the love, for the words. Don't write for the money.
That's great advice.
Finish the sentence.
Because the money's not always going to be there.
Right.
Throughout history, the money hasn't been there for the greatest writers ever. They weren't as glamorous as we seem to think that they were. So, but they loved words. This melodious, beautiful, glorious words.
And if you've produced a book that you're proud of, mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished,
right?
Exactly.
Great. How did you get started working as a literary agent?
I myself am a published co-author. And I found, as the co-author, I was doing the editing, and I was doing the sort of the research, and I was doing all of the business side. And I kind of realized as we got deeper into the process and got our own agent, I was thinking, I'm kind of doing the agency stuff. That was where my strength lies, with, talking to people, going up and shaking hands and making connections. And my co-author, Patty Crothers, was the phenomenal sit at home and get those words out kind of thing. And I could come back in and say, oh, this needs more angst in this scene, or these characters don't need to connect just right yet. And with that, I became an intern with a literary agency, and now I have been at it I'm in my 6th year.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
Fantastic. And selling a lot of books for a lot of clients, right?
yes, a lot of books for a lot of clients.
So it sounds like it kind of drew you in. It sounds like your skill set was very well matched to this. So what do you like most about being an agent?
So I've always considered myself a bridge, connecting one thing to another. Whether it is, I was in yoga, I was in mental health, it's connecting people to kind of what they want, what they need, what they love. And so for me, it was that being the bridge and connecting to people and then connecting them to their publishing dreams. So my absolute favorite bit is when any of my authors, even if it's their 7th book, and they get their box of books in and they open it and they're crying because they've wanted this for so long.
Right.
Or they wrote maybe something else for a while, but now this is some fresh idea and they weren't sure and they doubted, and they have that in front of them and they're crying and I'm crying, and that's just that's my favorite bit.
Because that is always a wonderful moment.
Yes.
That very first time you get to see your book. Now the other side of the coin, what do you least like about being an agent? What is it that's not as great?
I hate having to tell people no.
Yeah.
It is really hard for me, and I have a tendency to sort of go to the improv route, except opposite, saying yes and. I go, no, but.
Yeah.
No for me, but there are a whole bunch of publishing options. There are a whole bunch of other agents out there. Just because it's not right for me doesn't mean it's not right for someone else. So that's always the hardest bit, is having to say no.
I get that.
I think a lot of writers are sort of mystified by this whole literary agent process and how do you get one and what does it take. Can you talk a little bit about your selection process? How do you go about choosing the writers you're going to represent?
Connecting with an agent is about connecting. Yes, you want to find an agent that represents your genre. You want to find an agent that has traditional success in selling what you write. That's very important. But for me, I almost look at it like a marriage. So I ask people, I'm like, I'm hyper communicative. I have a tendency to respond quickly to emails. And I'm a bit of a cheerleader. So I'm like, okay, if you're having a bad day, reach out to me, and I'll say, just text me and I'll hype you up. I'll be your hype man, because that's my job, to be as passionate about you and your work as an author. But some authors really find that uncomfortable, and they aren't looking for that. They want somebody who's a little bit more sort of standoffish, or some of them have even said, well, it's not very professional because I text with my authors, or I give them some access that other agents don't. And that's okay. I just kind of it's about connecting. So make sure they're the right fit for your genre, the right fit for you, and honestly, the person that you need in your life, because they've got to be out there, screaming at New York, this book is awesome! Buy this book. And if they can't do that for you, then they're probably not the right agent.
Gee whiz, I've had a lot of agents, but I'm not sure I've ever had anybody I'd call a cheerleader.
I think it's important to be super supportive and generous with time and information, because it's so hard being an author and feeling like you're so isolated and alone, except for environments like WriterCon or the WriterCon cruise, where you feel like you have not just a group, but like a family that we can all rely on now. And so much of the time it doesn't feel that way, and it's like, I don't know. So for my authors, I want to be there if they don't know, they can ask me, and if I can't help them, I'll try and share with them someone who can. Or say, go to WriterCon or whatever.
I like that advice. That's good.
That's excellent advice.
No, that's all terrific. Do you have a favorite agent success story?
A favorite agent success story? I don't.
Or two, if that makes it easier.
Because I'll be honest, some of my best financial successes of an agent, the author has walked away from the publishing process feeling sad or disheartened because they didn't achieve whatever they had thought or idealized or whatever. So for a success, it is mostly, I think I'll go with one of my authors, Mark Kelly. And he is a LGBTQ author. And when he was a teenager, he could not find an LGBTQ superhero. And he's very into sci-fi, very into he goes to cons and and he just felt, again, very alone and isolated, and that representation wasn't there for him. So he spent his 20s, not all of his 20s, he'll get mad if I call him out for being over 20, but he spent that time really buckling down and learning to write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. And was it last year? His work, Geist, was published, which is the origin story for one of the first gay superheroes.
Oh,
nice.
Cool.
So that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
So kind of building on that, because you said some people have walked away a little disappointed, what advice would you give to authors who are looking for their agent right now?
Manage your expectations. Writing is not like you see on television. A lot of folks in 2020 who were at home were kind of like, I'll just write a book. It'll be easy. And it's not. It's really hard. And the expectation is you get this, some authors will say, well, I need to hit the New York Times bestseller to be a success. And if I'm not that, then I'm a failure. Instead of, I have to work really hard for like 30 years to get to the New York Times bestseller list. And yes, there are outliers that make it like that. But if you really want to succeed in this industry, you have to have the stamina and the gumption to just keep on going. Book after book after book, doing all of the marketing, all of the everything. Because a lot of times people will come to me and say, I wrote this book, but I don't really want to market it. So can you do something with it?
Yeah.
and I'm always like, no, I'm sorry. That's not how this works. So.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty now. What are some of the things you see or have seen authors doing that really hinder them rather than help them find an agent?
Overcomping themselves. That is, it's saying this is going to coming right at first line. This book is going to be bigger than the Bible, or this book is going to be bigger than Harry Potter, or just coming in with ego first, and that's not really how the industry works. After a while, you can earn an ego, but it takes it should take a while. So that's a big one. Not knowing your genre is a big reason that an agent wouldn't take you on. As I mentioned in class a few days ago, I was given a 700,000 word erotica, and that genre is usually in the 30,000 word range.
That's a lot of erotica. That's like a lifetime of erotica, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And not having read a word, there's nothing an agent can do with that situation. So you need to know your word count, you need to know your genre, you need to know the formula for it, all of the things before you are ready for an agent.
So let's build on that.
Okay.
So you go to conferences, I would think fairly often, yes?
Yeah.
And that's probably where you're going to have most of your connections made. People are coming to you and they're pitching to you. What do you look for in a pitch? Like what's going to work, what isn't?
Honestly, it's going to be very similar. I'm looking for people that I feel are motivated, people that really care about what they're talking about.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit. I think you go to conferences pretty regularly, yes, and that's a great place for authors to connect with you, and they're going to do that through a pitch. And so what is it that you're looking for when someone comes to you to pitch? What helps and what doesn't?
The most helpful thing in a pitch is that they know what I'm looking for, and that they are pitching sort of, again, in the genre that I represent most, or something they said, I saw this interview and you said that you liked this. I have something that is, similar to that. something close. What's difficult is when someone, again, like I just said about the erotica, when someone's like, oh, I've written a really dark horror and you've never really sold that, but can you be my agent? And I'm like, I don't know the right editors in that genre. I'm not the right person to connect you with that. So that's one of the big things. And I'm not really worried. Like, folks are always very nervous. And I've even held hands and like breathed with authors because they were so scared to spit out the premise of their book. But it's okay. Take your time, breathe. And that doesn't apply to all pitch sessions because some are very short.
Not at WriterCon.
Not at WriterCon.
I just got to say.
And also some are very expensive at some conferences. And it's okay to ask questions of the agent. That's always fine. I always ask my the author after they've told me about their book. If I'm interested, I've asked for the full. I'll say, what else do you write? What else have you done? What communities are you in? So be prepared to answer some of those questions about yourself and about your writer history. And I think that is really what I'm looking for, because I'm not looking for sort of a person who's I've written one book and that's all I care about, and I'm not going to write any more. I can't really help a person with that. I'm looking for, and most agents are looking for, folks who are going to build a lifetime of works, and they'll continue to build those relationships with editors and publishers as they grow. And so those are the things to know.
Amy, one last question. Can you talk or tell our readers a little bit about what you or maybe other agents are looking for right now? I don't mean people or pitches, but what kinds of books? What
kinds of books? What's difficult is every agent is different.
Right.
It should have, if you look them up on the agency website, it should have their little list of what they're interested in and have represented best. Almost always it's there. Same with manuscript wish list. Most all of us have got some sort of information on manuscript wish list. I will warn you that manuscript wish list, the actual website, not the one on Twitter, the actual website can be a little bit outdated because I haven't updated mine in like 4 years. So, probably should do that. I'm specifically looking for LGBTQ forward works by any authors from the community. I am looking for cozy mysteries. I am trying to kind of expand and broaden in areas that I am familiar with a little bit. Like I said, getting into cozy mysteries. And I think that's probably most what I'm looking for. Always romance.
Spicy romance?
I am open to any spice level. Angst is my favorite emotion. So,
really?
Yeah. So if it is...
You went brooding romance stories.
Yes. And angst sells. So if it's angst all the way up to the end, I'm fine with that. If it's sweet Hallmarkian romance, I've sold a ton of those. Or if it is, right up the old hot, steamy, sexy fit line, I'm loving that too. So,
Amy, you're just a font of information. Thank you so much for being on this cruise and on this podcast.
Thank you so much.
We've got the WriterCon small group retreat coming up in July, and if you're interested in a small group setting where you can have direct one-on-one feedback and mentoring and meet other people who are having the same aspirations that you are, it's a great experience. Visit the website to learn more about it. And of course, come Labor Day weekend, September 1st through 4th, that's the big conference, WriterCon. We've got more than 60 presenters lined up. And I mentioned earlier in this podcast, Pitch Fest, which is something new we're adding this year to give people an opportunity to not only pitch, but pitch more effectively and pitch everyone there at once, more than 20 people, all the agents, editors, publishers, which, in a way makes more sense than doing it one at a time. Although you can do that too if you want. Every year we have connected writers and agents, and I think we're going to do an even better job this year. in addition to all the teaching and other opportunities. And if you register now, you can take advantage of the early bird prices. So please visit our website, writercon.com. And Rene, I think you submitted a script to Screencraft recently, didn't you? What happened there?
I did. I placed in the quarterfinals. So
congratulations. I mean, I knew, but still.
Thanks for faking that, though.
No, I just wanted you to talk. That is a hard thing to accomplish, so way to go.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Until next time, keep writing. Remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit. See you next time.
Bye.